So on to rugby league, our favourite topic of the week. And for our, honestly, guys, it's just our opinion. We're going to be doing a preview each episode for the 17 rugby league teams, starting from the bottom all the way up to the top. So we'll start from everyone's favourite wooden spoon is the Tigers. Preview for 2024 and how you think they're going to go. Mm-hmm. Do you want to kick off?
Yeah. There's obviously some issues here, John. I think the main one is that that Jerome Luai doesn't arrive for another 12 months. That's their main problem. So they've lost Luke Brooks. I don't think that's a big deal, John. I think they had to part ways with him. He just wasn't at his best anywhere near enough in his time at the club. Never made the finals. He was at the club for 10 years and never made the finals. And he was the chief playmaker. So Luke Brooks goes, they don't lose anything there. Obviously, Luai is he's their replacement for Luke Brooks, but they don't get him for 12 more months. So we've got Aiden Caesar coming into the frame. Hasn't played in the NRL for a while. Johnny's been in England since 2020.
Yeah, he went there he was at Canberra and the Titans before that. He was meant to be like the next big thing and just another one of those guys that after the rookie year collapsed, basically.
It seems like, and I'm not sure, obviously Luai's going to need a partner in the halves when he gets there.
So they've also bought, Aiden Caesar is 32 years old. I think he's on a 1-year agreement.
Yeah, so
I think he's been bought here for that 1 year.
He probably won't be renewed. He's just stopgap until they get Luai.
They've also bought Jaden Sullivan, who's a 6, over from the Dragons.
So what do you make of him? What do you
Well, because the thing with Sullivan, him and who was the one that did the hammer attack? Amon. Sullivan and Amon were meant to
one who did the hammer attack.
They were meant to be the future halves of the Dragons. Both of them wanted to leave. They're like, young guns, amazing in lower grades, came up to first grade perhaps a little bit too early in a crappy Dragons team, and both wanted to leave because Ben Hunt was in their way, basically. Mm-hmm. He's very good. He's still very young. I think he's 21 years old. That whole spine at the Tigers with Jareem Buller in one, he's the X factor that they'll have. So he was a kick-ass this year, actually. He orchestrated that win over the Panthers that they had. But that was his rookie year. So one of the issues with rookies is one of the reasons rookies work so well sometimes is because there's no video of them. And then they play for a year and other teams get the video of them.
And that's where they get their second-year syndrome.
Yeah, exactly. So with their halves of Aiden Caesar, Jaden Sullivan, then Jareem Buller at the back, I don't know who their hooker is. Aiden Caesar is obviously going to be the chief playmaker. Chief playmaker, senior in that group.
So that's. I mean, again, I'm looking a bit forward here, but Buller at fullback, Luai in the halves, Coruscant at hooker,
and Sullivan as a 5'8".
There's a good nucleus that they're
25 is good. Yeah. I think So 2024, you got a new coach in Benji Marshall, who's the youngest coach in the NRL. He's 38 years old. My God, he's only 5 years younger than me.
He's older than me, but only just.
So he had some matches last year in charge, I use the quotes, but they're not even on his official record, after Tim Sheens got the sack. Yeah. But we talked about it last year. Tim Sheens was still in the room, and that was totally a protection racket to not adversely affect Benji. So after that period where Tim Sheens was given the sack, again, quotes, and Benji was in charge, he only won one game. Now, I can only in history actually think of one coach who took over, in recent history, midway through a year and actually did anything, and it was Brad Fittler after he took over from Chris Anderson. So nothing that Benji has shown this year is anything.
And he's going to have... So he finished playing with the Tigers in 2020, John. That's not that long ago.
Yeah.
So he could potentially, and I haven't gone through their squad. I'm not sure how many players they still have left from 2020 who Benji would have played with there, but that's potentially an issue, John, that he could be too friendly with some of the players that he played with himself. But I think the main issue for Benji is that we just don't know if he can coach, John.
Yeah, at all.
I mean, he was a great player, no question about it. But he's only had 1 year as an assistant coach under Tim Sheens. He was meant to have 2, and they just basically decided it was all too hard for Tim Sheens. So they fast-tracked him for no real good reason, John. And I think that's not like it's not like he's been fast-tracked because Benji did such a great job as an assistant coach that we couldn't bear to have him as assistant coach for another year. We had to have him as the head coach after only 12 months being an assistant. It was too hard for Tim Sheen, so you're in a year early, mate.
Yeah, and one thing he has shown is his ability to get players to sign. But I think that'll change. That'll change depending on the outcome of this year. So he's been able to sign some really good players for 2025.
He's got that to his credit. He's signed Luai.
He's got some young guns. A lot of them are Pacific Islanders or New Zealand players, which Benji has that a link with them and all. So they've lost Latu Fainu, Samuela Fainu. No, sorry, that's who they gained. They gained Finers.
Yeah.
It's both the Finers.
The Fainu brothers, yeah.
Yeah. Jaden Sullivan, Aiden Caesar, Solomon Alamilo from Super Rugby, and Solomona Fatapi from the Brisbane Tigers, who was one of those young guns that Benji was able to snare. And as you said, they've lost Luke Brooks, they've lost Tommy Talau, Dane Laurie, Itasi James, Rua Nagatura, Natakora, Tuki Simpkins, Brendan Wakeham, Tristan Riley, and Brendan Webster Mansfield. The thing with their gains and losses is they cancel each other out because the majority of players they lost were West Tiger. Well, every player they lost was a West Tiger, so who cares? Exactly. And the players they've gained are now West Tigers, so who cares?
There's nothing really that sort of jumps out. No. There. I mean, those Fainu brothers, I mean, there's a bit of potential there. I mean, Latu Fainu, he's a young playmaker on the rise. He's only 18. He signed a 4-year deal. That gives them another option other than Caesar and Sullivan. So if those two aren't working out, then you never know. He might get his debut before the season's over. They've
also got Adam Dewey to come back because he was out injured with a knee. I think that's how Jareen Buller got his start, right? So Dewey can play 1, 6, and 7. So they have no shortage of young, exciting halves as well as because Dewey's pretty senior now. I don't know how old he is, but he's been around for a while. Semi-senior halves, and then Api Coruscant, who was... Did he play in Origin?
Coruscant. Might need to look that one up, John.
I know he was in Origin mix. If I can work it. There we go. See, he's 31. Yeah. He's been around forever. But he played 4. Okay. Yeah. So, they've got a pretty good spine actually, and they didn't have that good of a spine last year, or for many previous years. But they've got a pretty good. They don't have, Daly Cherry Evans, Adam Reynolds, James Tedesco, this kind of name in their spine, but. When you look at it, Buller, Caesar, Sullivan, and Api Coruscant, or perhaps Dewey, or perhaps Fainu, it's not that bad. The other thing about them is this year they're going to be playing 10 games at their home grounds. Which they haven't done a lot for the past few years because they've been chasing the money. So, this year they played 3 at each. Last year they played 3 at each. This year they're playing 5 at Campbelltown and 5 at Leichhardt, and then they have... I think one of their home games is the Magic Round. They're closing out Magic Round. And then they've got another one of those, everyone does a regional one to get a bit of money. Yeah. Which is a big, look, those grounds both suck.
But I think they'd rather be playing there than
it's a big grounds. It's a big bump. I think it will help Benji a lot. Their draw is actually one of the most lenient or least hard draws. they're starting out round 1 with the bye that everybody knows, so that means they'll at least be 9th after the first round. Guaranteed 9th after the first round.
Yeah, that's something to look forward to.
Opening of the round, technically they're first.
yeah, exactly. They're on top of the ladder.
Yeah. They're going to play none of the powerhouses from 2023 twice. Okay.
It's good.
The teams they'll play twice, the ones from the finals are the Knights, Sharks and Raiders. And then they'll play Eels, Dolphins, Dragons, Rabbitohs, and Cowboys twice. So there's some Eels and Rabbitohs playing them twice can be quite a thing. Maybe the Cowboys might be an issue, but Dolphins, Dragons, even Raiders, something like the Raiders is not a hard thing. If they get the Knights early, they could do very well. They got a bye for Origin 1 when the players are actually out, and then the backup after the matches against the Dragons 2 days later. So even with players back up, Dragons are more likely to have players out for Origin than the Tigers as well. They'll have Ben Hunt out for Origin. He'll have to back up 2 days later and things like that.
Yeah, Origin's a time that would suit a club like the Tigers.
Yeah, exactly.
Not having many representatives.
So they'll play the Raiders and the Sharks where all the teams are missing the Origin players. And again, the Tigers aren't going to have a stack of guys out for Origin, man. So they're going to have... I can't think of anyone in their squad that they're going to actually play. He's going to play Origin, to be honest. So they're probably going to have a full-strength squad. Maybe the Sharks might have somebody out, like maybe Nico Hines. So they get that. But then they do have to back up on those weeks against the Roosters and the Rabbitohs. So it could be an ups and downsy over the Origin 2 and 3. Origin 1, they've got the best, absolute best. And Origin periods in those teams that are, fighting for those middle of the round things, they're the periods that win it for them. They're the periods that win the battle. So they've got a kind of good Origin period that could keep them off the bottom of the ladder.
Yeah, for me, it's a lot is going to hinge on this season for them. A lot's going to hinge on Buller being able to take their attack to the next level, and Coruscant. I think those are the two. If you had to sort of narrow it down to two players who it's going to hinge on, whether they can get off the bottom of the ladder, I think that their goal this season is just don't come last.
Yeah,
basically.
Don't fight for the spoon.
Yeah.
Don't fight to avoid the spoon.
So if they're going to get off the bottom of the ladder, it's going to come from Buller and Coruscant primarily, as far as I can see. So last year they won 4 games. The Dragons came second last, winning 5. Bulldogs came third last, winning 7. If we're looking at where the Tigers are going to finish this year, I'm sorry, Joe, I just can't see anything changing. I just can't see enough there to suggest that they're going to finish above anybody this season and that they're going to finish... I know they've won the last 2 wooden spoons. It's hard to see them not winning a third in a row, John. There is light at the end of the tunnel with Luai coming in 2025. But as for 2024, I think it's going to be a hard slog, John, and I can't see them finishing off the bottom of the ladder, I'm sorry to say.
I think they've... We'll get to the other teams, the Dragons on Monday and Bulldogs next Thursday. I think out of those 3 teams that fought to avoid the wooden spoon this year, the Tigers are probably actually in a better position than the other 2, certainly than the Dragons. And I think there are some other teams that are going to sharply drop next year, none more so than the Raiders. So I kind of see the Tigers in that. There's 17 teams now, right?
Yeah.
15th or 14th position.
Okay, so you don't think... So I've got them 17th, John.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I hope it doesn't happen, but I think it will happen. Yeah. So you've got them at 14 or 15.
15th, yeah. We'll go. So I've got to pick one.
You're going to pick one, so you're going to go 15th. Okay, so you've got them finishing off the bottom of the ladder.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the Dragons will come last, by the way, just a preview for next week.
You're setting your expectations low, John, so hopefully they surprise you.
So look, I just think that spine is what does it for them. They've got like I said, they've got a pretty good spine. It's not a bad spine, it's not a superstar spine. It's a very middle of the road spine that can help keep them off the ladder. It is going to come down exactly to what you said. Api Coruscant, Jareen Buller. If those two, if Coruscant can feed Sullivan and Caesar well from the ruck, and Buller can kick in that X factor, I think they can score a lot of points. There's definitely a lot of points in them, and there's going to be some issues with their defence.
Yeah, I just can't. I just don't think that they should be expecting much out of Caesar or Sullivan. And I'm not, it's all relative, John, but just in comparison to other halves combinations,
I
mean...
it's like Sullivan was supposed to be that young gun, come up and be the best, but he was stuck at the Dragons, and he's gone to the one team in the NRL that's worse than the Dragons. That was always the blame. Why isn't Sullivan as good as he should be? Well, he is at the Dragons. But, he's gone to the one team that's worse, so he could potentially go worse. Or... with Caesar there to lead him around the park and that, because, like I said, Api Coruscant's 31. So he's a very senior player as well. He's been around for a long time. He's played with some of the best teams and players in the comp, and he's played Origin. So he can get them to that next... He can get those young players to that next level of actually concentrating on winning. So, yeah, I'm going 15th. You're going 17th. We've got to keep track of this to the end of the year.
That's the thing. We might sort of... make a bit of a note of that so we don't double up. John.
Yeah. We'll do it. We'll add it to each rundown. Further on, so that's it for the Tigers preview for 2024. Honestly, guys, it's just our opinion. On Monday, we'll be doing the Dragons. So I'll have a lot to say about how terrible they are.
You will.